My parents gave my college fund to my brother, then asked me to pay his rehab bills. You're the responsible one, Emma. You'll figure it out. My mother's words rang in my ears like a slap that didn't leave a bruise, just that hot sting, the kind that makes you question your sanity. I stood in the kitchen staring at them. My parents. The people who promised they'd always have my back. My hands trembled as I gripped the counter, the laminate edge biting into my skin. You what? My voice cracked. Dad couldn't look at me. His eyes focused on a speck on the wall like it might answer for him. Jake needed it. You gave him my college fund. I didn't ask. I said it flat because I needed to hear the words out loud to believe it. Mom stepped in like she always did with that infuriating tone of "we know best." Honey, he was in a bad place. He's your brother. He's always in a bad place. Jake. My older brother. Jake, who dropped out of college twice. Who racked up 5 figures in credit card debt trying to find himself. Jake, who'd been bailed out of everything from car accidents to unpaid rent. Every time my parents scrambled to fix it. Every time they said it would be the last, and this time it was my turn to pay. I needed that money, I said. Med school starts in 3 months. My deposit is due in 2 weeks. You have scholarships, Dad said. He waved a hand like that solved everything. You're smart. You'll figure it out. The betrayal knocked the air out of me. I had worked. I had bled for that money. Every honors class, every volunteer hour, every AP exam, every late-night tutoring kids and subjects I mastered just to look good on applications. And while I was grinding, Jake was getting high in some girl's apartment and crashing Mom's car. I had played by every rule. Jake hadn't even read the rule book. I backed away. My heart thudded against my ribs. How much? My mother hesitated. How much? 80,000. I laughed. It wasn't funny, but the sound came out anyway. Brittle and sharp. 80,000. Just like that. Dad's mouth tightened. We didn't do it lightly. Oh, I'm sure, I snapped. Was this before or after he stole Grandma's jewelry to buy pills? Emma! Mom gasped. But she didn't deny it. I grabbed my coat. Where are you going? She asked. To do what I always do. Clean up the mess. Later that night, I sat on the hood of my car outside Jake's halfway house, dialing his number with shaking fingers. I didn't even wait for a greeting when he answered. You took my future, Jake yawned. Hey, you know how expensive these places are? You don't sound like someone in rehab. I'm clean. I just needed a break. Detox, get my head straight. His voice was breezy. You'll be fine. You're like the golden child. No, I said coldly. You are. He paused. Don't be dramatic, it's just money. No, it was everything. A rustle, a sigh. Look, Mom and Dad made the choice. I didn't steal it. You asked. Silence. Didn't you? His voice lowered. They owed me. My stomach turned. What does that mean? But he hung up. I got home around midnight. The lights in the kitchen were still on. My parents sat at the table like they'd been waiting for me. We need to talk, Mom said. I have nothing left to give, I replied, already turning toward the stairs. It's about Jake. I stopped. Dad looked up, eyes weary. He's not doing well. He left the center. What? He came back, but they won't let him stay unless we pay for the next program. It's intensive care. He needs help. A sick feeling bloomed in my chest. We can't afford it, Mom said gently. But you can. I turned slowly. You want me to pay for Jake's rehab? You have savings, Dad said. You've always been responsible. I stared at them, a strange calm settling over me. Let me get this straight. You took my college fund, gave it to Jake. Now you want me to rescue him again? They didn't speak. I'm not your backup plan, I said. Your family, Mom whispered. Exactly. I walked away, and this time I didn't look back. The first thing I did the next morning was move my money. What little was left anyway. The college fund was gone, vaporized in a single betrayal, but I still had my part-time job earnings, a small scholarship refund, and some emergency savings. Not enough for med school, but enough to keep my independence. And now, independence wasn't a luxury. It was oxygen. I opened a new account. Different bank. No joint access, no parental co-signers, just me, just in case they got any more ideas. That afternoon, I got the text. Mom, please come by. We need to talk. Not about money, which, of course, meant it was about money. I ignored it. 5 minutes later, another. Dad, you're not answering your mother. Come home. Not our home. Come home. That wording said everything. Still, I drove over. Not for them, for closure. For the final nail in whatever relationship we still pretended to have. The house looked the same. Neat lawn, wind chime clinking gently on the porch. But everything about it felt alien now. Like walking into a crime scene. Mom greeted me at the door with red eyes and a fresh wave of guilt perfume. Hi, sweetie. Don't, I said. She stepped back. Dad sat at the kitchen table, stiff as stone. He had papers spread out. Medical bills, rehab brochures, cost estimates that looked more like ransom notes. $18,700 for 30 days. $1,200 for intake. Family support program fee, $750. So? I asked, arms folded. Dad gestured to the papers. He's running out of options. He's always running out of options. And somehow they all lead to me. He's your brother. Mom said quietly. You said that already. Mom flinched. Dad sighed. We just need a loan, Emma. Just enough to get him through this program. We'll pay you back. With what? My college fund? He didn't answer. Don't you see how messed up this is? I asked. You want me to pay for the recovery of the person you gave my future to. You're being dramatic. No, I said, voice rising. I'm being honest. Try it sometime. I left again. And this time I didn't take their calls, but they didn't give up. 2 days later, a letter came. A real letter, as if handwriting their guilt would make it more persuasive. Emma, we know you're angry. We understand why. But Jake is sick. He needs help, and he won't survive this without support. You're the only one with the resources. Please. If you can't do it for us, do it for him. Love, Mom and Dad. P.S. You'll get it back, we promise. I laughed when I read that last line. Then I cried. Then I tore the letter in half and tossed it in the trash. That weekend, I went to the library to get away. To try to study. To breathe. Instead, I opened my laptop and started Googling rehab costs, scholarships, med school deferrals. Anything that would give me a way forward. That's when a message popped up on Facebook. Jake. Hey, heard they hit you up? Sorry, I ignored it. Not like I asked for this. Still ignored. They're overreacting. I'm not that bad. And that did it. I typed back. You took everything from me. A pause. They gave it to me. I didn't take it. You demanded it. Didn't you? Another pause. Then finally, I told them if they didn't help me, I'd tell everyone what they did. I blinked. What? They owed me. That money wasn't a gift. It was theirs to pay. Pay for what? No reply. What did they do, Jake? Still no reply. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing Jake's words on loop. They owed me. It wasn't the drugs. It wasn't just manipulation. It was blackmail. I started to connect the dots. Not just what they did, but why they did it. And I realized something. They weren't just bad with money, they were hiding something. The next morning, I confronted them. Again. Why did Jake say you owed him? Mom went pale. Dad stood slowly, like his body was bracing for impact. I don't know what he meant, Dad said. Too quickly. Try again. We gave him the money because he needed help, Mom said. We don't owe anyone anything. He said he'd tell everyone. What would he tell exactly? Silence. I laughed. Bitter. Right. That's what I thought. As I turned to leave, Mom whispered, he wasn't supposed to remember. That stopped me cold. Remember what? But she didn't answer. I walked out of that house and told myself I was done. That I could close the door on all of it. On Jake, on my parents, on the lies. But that one line echoed louder than any of the guilt trips or pleas. He wasn't supposed to remember. That meant there was something real. Something big enough that they thought Jake had forgotten it. Something they paid $80,000 to bury. And now I needed to know what. Not just for closure. For justice. I didn't plan to visit Jake. I told myself I was done. That I needed to focus on what little was left of my future. That I wouldn't play therapist, savior, or guilt sponge anymore. But then came the dream. Jake, sitting on the edge of my childhood bed, pale and thin, whispering, "You don't know what they did," over and over. A mantra, a warning. I woke up sweating, and 2 hours later I was driving to New Horizons Recovery Center, telling myself it was closure. It wasn't. The front desk nurse looked up from her monitor. Name? Emma Clark. I'm here to see Jake Clark. She raised an eyebrow. Family? I hesitated. Unfortunately. She smirked. Third floor. You've got 20 minutes. Jake looked worse than I expected. Not strung out, not sick, just hollow. Like someone had scooped out the old him and replaced it with an echo. His eyes were sunken, and he had that empty look people get when they've been detoxed but not yet rebuilt. When he saw me, something flickered behind his eyes. Shame? Relief? Wow, he said. Didn't think you'd actually come. I didn't come for you, I said. I came for answers. He nodded, motioning to the folding chair across from him in the visitor's lounge. Fair. I sat, arms crossed. You said they owed you, I began. That they gave you my college fund because you threatened to expose something. He stared at his hands. Yeah. What is it, Jake? What are they hiding? He didn't answer. I leaned in. They already told me part of it. That you weren't supposed to remember, so what did you remember? Jake looked up, eyes wet. There was an accident. My stomach turned. What kind of accident? He glanced around, lowering his voice. When I was 15, Dad came home drunk. I'd been at a party. I was drunk too. He came to pick me up, furious. I nodded slowly. Okay. Jake's jaw tightened. On the way home, he hit someone. I blinked. Hit someone like... a car? No, he said. A person. My breath caught. It was on that back road near Ridgeview. He was yelling at me, swerving, and then this guy, he just appeared. Dad clipped him. I saw him roll into the ditch. What happened next? Jake rubbed his temples. He panicked. Said it was my fault for distracting him. Told me not to say a word. My mouth went dry. We drove home. He made me promise I didn't see anything. Said he'd take care of it. Did he? Jake nodded slowly. He called someone. Paid someone, and that was that. I thought maybe it didn't really happen. You repressed it? For a while. Then last year I started having dreams. Flashbacks. I drove back out there one night to that road, and I remembered. I felt cold all over. So you confronted him? Jake looked at me. I told them if they didn't help me, I'd go to the cops. And they gave you the money? They said they couldn't let this destroy everything. Said it was the only way to make it right. That it was just money. I swallowed hard. You believe me? Jake asked. I don't know, I said honestly. But I believe something happened, and I'm going to find out. Jake leaned forward, voice cracking. Emma, there's more. The guy, he didn't die. I think he lived, but he disappeared. Disappeared how? I don't know. Dad just said, he's gone. He won't talk. Do you remember his name? Jake hesitated. Then, Daniel Hartley. I left the center in a daze. The sun felt too bright. The world too quiet. Jake was unreliable, yes, but he wasn't creative. He couldn't have invented that level of detail, not like this. Not the look on his face. Daniel Hartley. I repeated the name over and over as I drove. I didn't know what I was going to do with it, but it felt like a thread. A single, frayed piece that might unravel everything. I started with Google. A few Hartleys in the area. A Daniel Hartley in his 50s. No current job listed, formerly an engineer. No social media. And then, tucked away in an old local newspaper archive, a clipping. Man injured in suspected hit and run, Ridgeview Road, minor internal bleeding, refused to press charges, no comment to media. Year, 2013. The same year Jake was 15. I printed the article, hands trembling. There it was, the man who disappeared. And now, I was going to find him. Jake's story haunted me for days. I couldn't focus. Not at work, not while applying for med school deferrals, not even while sleeping. My mind circled the same questions. Was it true? Why would someone like Daniel Hartley vanish after a hit and run? And why would my parents pay my brother off rather than face the truth? I needed answers. Not half-truths, not emotional manipulation. Evidence. And I knew just where to start looking. Jake's old room hadn't changed much. My parents kept it exactly as it was, either out of delusion or denial. Sports trophies coated in dust, shelves cluttered with junk, old CDs, half-burned candles, and piles of tangled headphones. It was like stepping into a time capsule of chaos. I waited until Mom left for her book club. Dad was at work. I slipped in with a set of keys I'd never returned. Jake's closet was crammed, the kind of mess even Rehab couldn't detox. I pulled out shoeboxes, drawers, and a warped filing crate labeled school crap. Underneath it all was an old cigar box with a broken latch. Inside, loose change, a half-used vape pen, and a stack of crumpled receipts. Then, at the bottom, a folded envelope with my dad's handwriting. It wasn't addressed to anyone. Just one word on the front. Daniel. My breath caught. I opened it. Daniel. I know what I did can't be undone. You were in the wrong place at the wrong time. I didn't stop. I didn't call anyone. I panicked. You said you didn't want money, but I'm sending it anyway. I'm sorry. I wish that meant something. If this ever surfaces, I'm finished. You said you'd stay gone. Please keep your word. Tom Clark. I sat on the floor for a long time, just staring at the letter. It was real. Jake hadn't lied. The story he told was more than a guilt trip or a hallucination. It was history. Our family's history. Buried in a dusty cigar box like a loaded gun. I took a photo of the letter with my phone, then carefully put it back. I didn't want my parents to know I'd been there. Yet. I didn't need a confrontation. I needed the truth. That night I searched deeper into Daniel Hartley. Public records, obituaries, hospital bills, property records. And finally I found it. A mailing address. A P.O. box registered to a small town 40 miles away. Graybridge, Pennsylvania. He wasn't gone. He was hiding. The next morning, I made the drive. Graybridge looked like a town that had been forgotten on purpose. One diner, one gas station, a post office the size of a closet. I parked across the street and stared at the mailbox row outside the post office. Box hash 112, Daniel Hartley. I waited. I didn't know what I expected. Maybe someone older, bitter, or limping with trauma. But when he appeared, he was calm, weathered. Not afraid. He pulled a key from his coat pocket, opened his box, and started sorting his mail. I stepped out of the car. Daniel? He turned. Cautious, but not startled. Yeah? I think you knew my father. Tom Clark. His face changed, like he'd been hit without warning. He didn't answer. My name's Emma, I added. I'm his daughter. He blinked slowly. You shouldn't be here. Maybe not, I said. But I think we both know why I am. We sat in the diner. He didn't order anything. Just drank black coffee and watched me like I was another problem in a long line of problems. You want to talk about that night? He said. I need to know the truth. Daniel sighed. Truth is a luxury. Expensive as hell. I pulled out my phone and showed him the picture of the letter. He didn't flinch. So you didn't disappear? I said. You were paid to vanish. No, he said quietly. I wasn't paid. I was pressured. Big difference. What happened that night? Daniel rubbed his temple. I was walking home. Your dad's car came out of nowhere, swerved, hit my side, sent me flying. He didn't stop. And the police? I crawled to a payphone, told them it was a hit and run, but not much else. I was concussed. Broken ribs. They said they'd look into it. Never heard back. Why didn't you press charges? He gave me a long look. Because someone showed up at the hospital. Said if I kept my mouth shut I'd get cash. Said he had a family, a job, a future. You took the money? Daniel shook his head. I refused. The first time. And the second time? I never took it, but the pressure got worse. Suddenly my apartment was broken into. My dog disappeared. I got fired from my job 2 weeks later. I stared. You think my dad? I know your dad. Daniel snapped. He didn't threaten me directly. He didn't have to. He made it clear that if I wanted to stay safe, I'd stay silent. I swallowed the rising nausea. Eventually I left town. Took what little I had. Changed jobs. Changed everything. And I never cashed that check. He paused. I kept the letter though, in case anyone ever came looking. You still have it? He nodded slowly. Yeah. Framed it, actually. As a reminder. Why didn't you go to the police later? Daniel looked me in the eye. Because I was scared. And because no one would believe a guy with no witness, no proof, and no power. I sat back, my world tilting. Daniel sipped his coffee and said the words that sealed it all. Your father didn't just hit me. He erased me. And now, he's erased you too. The drive back from Greybridge was silent except for the sound of my own heartbeat. Every line of Daniel's confession echoed in my head. He erased me. I pulled into my parents' driveway around 9 p.m. The porch light was on. Inside, the living room glowed warm and familiar, the same house, same furniture, same framed photo of our perfect family above the mantel, but nothing about this family was perfect. I rang the doorbell. My mother answered, smiling with surprise. Emma? What are you doing here? I need to talk to both of you. Now. We sat around the dining room table, the one I'd done homework on. The one Jake flipped over during his first breakdown. My dad looked tired, defensive, like he already knew what was coming. I went to see Jake, I began. He told me what happened. About the accident. About Daniel Hartley. Silence. Then my dad said quietly, You shouldn't have gone digging. I pulled the letter out of my bag and placed it in the center of the table. My mother paled. He still has this? Dad asked, voice tight. No, I said. Jake had it, hidden, in his room. Mom reached for the letter with shaking hands. Dad stopped her. Don't. Her voice broke. Tom, she deserves to know. No, he said. She deserves to move on. I stood up, anger burning. You hit someone with your car and left him to die. Dad didn't deny it. He stared at me like he was weighing every possible excuse and found none worth saying. Mom was crying now. Quietly, like she'd practiced it. I pointed at the letter. You paid him off. Threatened him. Then gave Jake my college fund to keep him quiet. Dad looked up, voice hard. You don't know what it was like. He was going to ruin everything. Our lives, our family. Jake remembered more than we thought. And once he started unraveling, he wouldn't stop. You ruined everything. I snapped. Don't you dare blame Jake for remembering your crime. My mother's lip trembled. We didn't mean to hurt you. But you did, I said. You lied for over a decade. You used my future to cover your past. Dad folded his hands. You don't understand. I understand perfectly, I interrupted. You broke the law, then broke your son, and now you expect me to pay the bill? He stood up. That money didn't belong to anyone. It was just sitting there. It was mine. My voice cracked. You told me to be responsible, to work hard, to be the good one. You set me up to be your scapegoat, Mom whispered. We thought you could recover. You're strong, Emma. I let out a bitter laugh. Strong enough to carry your sins? The room fell silent. I left the letter on the table and walked toward the door. Dad followed. You're not going to tell anyone, he said. I turned slowly. Aren't I? His eyes hardened. You have no proof it was me behind the wheel. I have Daniel's statement. I have this letter. I have Jake. Jake won't testify. He's unstable. I stared at him. And whose fault is that? He didn't answer. That night, I drove back to my apartment with one clear thought in my mind. This doesn't end until someone makes it end. The next morning, I called Jake's rehab center. They told me he had checked out early. Wait, what? The nurse sighed. He signed an AMA form. Against medical advice. Happened yesterday afternoon. I hung up, panicking. If he was running, I needed to find him. It didn't take long. He was waiting outside my apartment. Hey, Jake said. shivering slightly in the hoodie I hadn't seen in years. "Can I come in?" I let him. He looked thinner, sadder, but lucid. "I couldn't stay there," he said. "Not after everything. I needed to see you." "You checked out without telling anyone?" "I'm not your project, Emma," he said. "I came to tell you something." I waited. "You remember that night?" he said. "The accident?" "Yeah." I remembered something else. "What?" Jake looked down. "It wasn't just Dad in the car." My stomach dropped. "What?" "Mom was there too." "You're lying." My voice cracked as I said it, even though I already knew Jake wasn't. He shook his head slowly, eyes bloodshot, his body curled into the corner of my couch like he wanted to disappear. "No," he said. "I remember everything now. They were both in the car that night." I sank to the floor. "Why didn't you tell me before?" "I didn't remember until a few days ago. Rehab." He paused. "It made things clear. I've been using for years to not remember." I closed my eyes. Flashes of the family photo above the mantel flickering behind my eyelids. My father, my mother, Jake, me, all smiles, all lies. "They told me they'd go to jail if I said anything," Jake whispered. "Mom especially. She was crying so hard that night. She cried for herself," I thought bitterly. Jake looked up at me. "They didn't just hit him. They kept driving. I was in the back seat. I was 12. I did the math. That would have been right after Dad's promotion. Mom had just joined the PTA. Perfect timing for a cover-up." "Did they ever talk about it again?" I asked. "Only once," he said. "When I was 15. I got in trouble for shoplifting. Dad said if I ever embarrassed the family again, he'd send me to boarding school." He scoffed. "I said I'd tell someone about the man they hit." Dad got real quiet. Then he said, "If that ever comes out, it ruins everything for all of us." Jake wiped his eyes. "That was the first time I realized. They don't just lie. They'll erase you if you become inconvenient." The house was so quiet I could hear my heart pounding in my ears. "And the college fund?" I asked. "What happened there?" Jake flinched. "They didn't offer it. I asked for it. I was broke and I said I'd go public if they didn't give me something." "So you blackmailed them?" I said flatly. He nodded. I wanted to be furious. I was furious. But more than that, I was numb. I had been the obedient one, the dependable one, the good kid. And somehow I'd paid the highest price for their sins. "Why are you here, Jake?" I asked. He looked up. "Because I want to stop running." The next morning I stood outside my parents' house again. This time I wasn't afraid. When they opened the door, they saw it on my face. Resolve, not grief, not shock. Resolve. "We need to talk," I said. My father stepped aside. "Emma, living room, now." They sat on the edge of the couch like suspects waiting for a verdict. "I know everything," I said. "Jake told me. You were both in the car that night." My mother looked away. My father didn't blink. "So that's it?" I said. "You've spent 15 years lying to my face. Telling me to work hard? To do the right thing? To be responsible while you left a man bleeding on the side of the road?" "It was an accident," Mom whispered. "No," I snapped. "The accident was hitting him. The crime was leaving him there to die." My father rubbed his eyes. "We didn't know what to do. I had been drinking. Just one glass, but still. We panicked. Your mother was crying. Jake was in the back seat." "Stop," I said. "You've told yourselves that story so many times you actually believe it's about you." My mother burst into tears. "We made a mistake." "A mistake is burning dinner," I said coldly. This was cowardice. They didn't speak. "I've talked to Daniel," I continued. "He never took your hush money. But he lost everything. His job, his apartment, his life. You stole mine to clean up the mess." I looked them both in the eye. "And now you have two choices." My dad stiffened. "What are you talking about?" "You confess. Together, to the police. You tell the truth, the full truth. About Daniel, about the accident. About how you paid your own son to stay quiet and stole your daughter's future to do it. And if we don't, then I release the letter, the recordings, the photos, and the statements. I have Daniel, I have Jake, I have everything." Mom's lip trembled. "You'd destroy your own family?" I took a breath. "You already did." We sat in silence. Then my father stood. "I'll call the lawyer," he said hoarsely. They turned themselves in 2 days later. The news didn't take long to spread. Local couple confessed to 15-year-old hit-and-run cover-up. Drunk driving, blackmail, and family secrets. The Clark case. Neighbors stopped making eye contact. My parents' friends from the country club vanished. Even Jake's old dealers apparently stopped returning his texts. Jake stayed with me. He was trying, sober, quiet, regretful. He even returned what was left of the money, a pitiful $2,000 and a handwritten note. "I can't undo what I took, but I'm trying to be better. Jake. I didn't forgive him, but I let him stay. That was as far as I could go." A week later, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Inside was a note. "You did what I couldn't. You chose truth over silence. Thank you. D.H." Underneath was a cashier's check, $50,000. 3 weeks after my parents turned themselves in, I came home to find Jake standing in my kitchen, pale, jittery, and holding a packed duffel bag. "I need to disappear," he said. I dropped my bag by the door. "What are you talking about?" He glanced around like someone was watching. "The press won't leave me alone. Rehab won't take me back. And Daniel? I think he wants to drag me into this too." "He's not after you," I said. "He wants justice." Jake shook his head. "He wants blood." "You're paranoid." He stepped closer. "You think you understand him, Emma? He spent 15 years eating his anger. Now the story's public, and I'm the one who blackmailed our parents. You think he's gonna let me walk away clean?" My chest tightened. "You don't get to walk away clean, Jake." "I know," he said. "But I don't want to end up like Dad. Or worse." He dropped the bag at my feet. "I've got bus tickets, fake ID. I just need a few $100 and a ride out of town." I stared at the bag, then at him. "You're asking me to help you run? I'm asking you to help me live." That night, I sat alone on my bed, staring at the check Daniel had sent, now framed on my dresser. $50,000. A future I could rebuild piece by piece, but only because the truth came out. Jake had helped in the end. He'd given a statement. He'd told the police what he saw. But he also stole, manipulated, threatened, and now wanted to vanish like none of it happened. He was my brother. He was also a coward, and I had a choice. We left at dawn. The highway stretched out like a silver ribbon, the early sun glinting off the windshield. Jake sat in the passenger seat, silent, clutching his bag like a life vest. At the edge of the state line, I pulled off at a gas station. "This is it," I said. He nodded. "Thank you." I handed him the envelope with the cash. "I can't promise you anything after this." He nodded again. Jake opened the door, then turned back. "You saved me." "No," I said. "You saved yourself by finally telling the truth." He hesitated. "Do you think you'll ever forgive me?" I looked at him, the boy I grew up with, the man I barely knew. "Not today." He gave a sad smile. "Fair." Then he disappeared into the sunrise. By nightfall, I was back home. I poured myself a glass of wine and turned on the TV. News coverage played on mute, stock footage of courthouses and prison gates. My parents had pleaded guilty. Sentencing was next month. Jake was gone. Off-grid. Daniel hadn't called since the letter. Maybe he didn't need to. Maybe the check was his closure, or maybe he was waiting to see what I'd do next. The next morning, I walked into the police station and asked to speak to the detective handling my parents' case. "I have something to add," I said. The room was small, windowless, just 2 chairs and a table. Across from me sat Detective Reeves, hands folded, eyebrows raised. "You said you had something to add, Miss Clark?" I hesitated. My palms were sweating. "I helped my brother disappear," I said. His eyes didn't move. "Go on." "I drove him to the state line. I gave him cash. I knew he wasn't coming back." "You're aware that aiding someone in avoiding prosecution could be considered obstruction," he said quietly. "Yes." He leaned back. "Why tell me now?" "Because I couldn't breathe. Because silence was starting to feel like my parents' legacy. Because Jake deserved to run, but that didn't mean I deserved peace for helping him." I shook my head. "Because the truth matters, even if it hurts." Reeves studied me, then nodded slowly. "I'll note the statement. If Jake becomes a person of interest, we may contact you again." I stood. "I understand." That night, the guilt hit like a freight train. I sat alone in my apartment, Daniel Hartley's letter in my hands. I read it again, over and over. "You did what I couldn't. You chose truth over silence." I hadn't. Not really. I'd let Jake go. But I hadn't lied. And for now, that was something. The next morning, I opened my email to find a single message. Subject: "You're not finished." From Daniel.H.58@protonmail.com. Body: I saw him. At the station. I didn't say anything. Yet, my blood ran cold. Daniel had seen Jake before he disappeared. Maybe he'd followed me. Maybe Jake had made one last mistake. Either way, Daniel knew, and he was giving me a choice. I called him. He picked up on the second ring. "You let him go," he said. "Yes." A long silence. "Do you think he deserves to vanish while I still wake up every day with the sound of my friend dying in my ears?" "No," I whispered. "But I think he was trying to save himself." Daniel exhaled slowly. "He's your brother. I get it. I'm not asking you to forgive him." "Good," he said. "Because I won't." I waited. Then he said, "I won't report him. Not yet. But that money I gave you, it wasn't free." "I didn't think it was." "You use it to build something good, Emma. Don't turn into them." "I won't." "Then we're done." The line went dead. That night I wrote a letter to Jake. "I don't know where you are, and I won't ask. But if you ever want to be part of my life again, it won't be in hiding. It'll be in truth. That's the only currency I accept now. Until then, stay gone." I didn't mail it. But I didn't delete it either. Weeks passed. My parents were sentenced to 5 years, eligible for parole in 3. Light, given the circumstances. Wealth and guilt still bought leniency. The headlines faded. The whispers slowed. And I got accepted to a new program, public health. Not med school, but mine. funded by scholarships and the rest of Daniel's money. And no matter how stained that money was, I was going to use it for something clean. I stood outside the courthouse one last time and whispered to no one. This is where the story ends. But I knew better. Some stories don't end, they echo.